Oh. Today we're going to be talking about click valves. And I've been running a relatively long-term test of this technology, first on my WindSpace road bike, which is roughly now for 5 months with TPU tubes, and for about a month now with my gravel bike using tubeless and tire inserts. The big issue I have is I don't think that the videos that you see on YouTube are giving you a complete and or balanced picture. Particularly, as an example, if you look at this video, not the YouTuber, but Swabble makes the claim that you can, and they do on their website too, get about 150% more air through the click valve than a Presta. And if you look at the YouTubers, they look like they're just simply quoting the manufacturer's specifications by saying you can get 40% more air. I'm going to challenge that. Also, they make the claim that you don't have to put a valve cap on. I'd be a little wary about that, and I'll have some discussion of that. And also give you a review of them with all the sort of pumps I have and toys. And I'm even going to hack the click valve and give some suggestions to Swabble on how they could better improve their product for you, the consumer. When you buy the click valves, you'll get a plastic cover, the actual click valves that go into your valve stem, and this higher quality aluminum as opposed to the cheap plastic valve tool. You can buy aftermarket these nice caps which have a tightening tool in them. These work great. These are the older plastic adapters. They come in this box. Don't recommend getting them. They're cheap. The higher quality aluminum adapters. The aluminum adapter on their aluminum pump head, which I'm not a fan of, and I'll get into that. And finally, the only aftermarket wolf tooth pump head that I'm aware of right now. Hopefully others will adopt this technology. For any testing I'm going to do today, I'm using 2 identical stems with the click valve and a Presta valve mounted to them. So let's see how this click valve works in the wolf tooth. Ah, there you hear the click. That's absolutely fantastic. Now, how does that work? Let's see if I've got the hand strength here to show you what creates the click. Hands were too sweaty. So if you pull this apart, what you're going to see here is there's this ring around it. The ring holds in some ball bearings. That's what actually creates the click. Oh, and then we just lost a ball bearing. Let's look at a click valve. Hopefully this focuses. So there's the shroud for it, but the internals of it, you've got a spring which, when this is pushed down with the adapter, and inside the adapter you basically have a female part. See if I can get that in there without the guide. That opens the valve. So you got a spring in the way there. Now, one comment I want to mention is Swabble says you don't have to run this with a valve cap. I would, because if any dirt gets in there, it could get caught in the spring where they say it flushes. So not necessarily recommended to run these without caps, regardless of what the manufacturer says. A Presta valve is much simpler, where you have the body, the nut, which I've cut off, and let's call this the plunger assembly. What's neat about this is when you're operating this, the air pressure keeps it closed. And what you can't do easily on a click valve is release air pressure by tapping this. And then you tighten down the top nut to ensure the air valve right here stays shut. Feel free to watch some of the links I've given you down below. The YouTube videos do a lot of pros and cons. Actually, they mainly just do pros of the click valve. And I think sometimes they over-exaggerate the problem. So let's look at our little Presta right here. Number one thing with the click valve is you just click it. You don't have to undo this nut up here. You can't bend that nut. But I'll make a comment to you there where, if you're a skilled cyclist, which I'm sure many of you are, when's the last time you bent over a Presta nut? That's generally not an issue. Also, you can obviously, with the Lezyme type pump head, you can pull out the Presta core. I usually think that's not an issue, but some young guy helping two young ladies pulled one of her valve cores out, and you hear this totally emasculating for this young fella. So, okay, fair enough. What I do find, though, is that if you're not an experienced cyclist, the click valve certainly has some advantages where you don't have to worry about working around these Presta cores. You just click it on. That's where I think we get to some of the cons, which really aren't highlighted, and I'll go into more detail as this video progresses. But just having a friction fit Presta head on it when you don't have compatibility with the click adapter, things don't work as well, and I'll show you that. And generally, if you're got a lot of bikes like I do, it's a small fortune to retrofit everything because there's also Schrader click adapters. It's actually cheaper if you figure it out to retrofit your high quality aluminum pump, let's say for road, and then have a second pump for dealing with Schrader and your sports balls and stuff like that. If you're so worried about cracking off a Presta core, do what I do. I just carry two of them around with one of those aluminum tools at all times on all my bikes, because it's not like they're expensive. If you know the right place to get these things, you can probably get them for about 25 to 50 cents each. The one issue with this that I've noticed is that there's a little bit of additional effort when you don't have an adapter to work against that spring when you're just using a friction fit Presta head. We're going to use the MAE Biker 1-Up Click Hack now. Gotta love that click. Fairly minimal effort pumping. Now, let's use the identical pump with the Presta head. I can assure you there is significantly, I'm talking about 3 times the effort pumping this, because every time I take a stroke, I got to move the spring too, as well as the air pressure. So when they say it's compatible, that 40% air volume increase, etc., is complete bullpucky. This is way harder to do. Completely ignoring manufacturer's recommendations, you're not supposed to hook a boom box directly up to a TPU tube. Let's see how long this takes. Well, there's the friction fit. Doing this test, I found that the boom box with the click valve, with the friction fit, had pretty much the exact same time as a Presta head on that valve with the friction fit. So the point here is that that restriction I'm talking about is really only applicable to hand pumps, which are becoming extinct right now. My biggest point of contention with YouTubers is they seem to be quoting Swabel's propaganda on these valves, saying 1 times more flow, 40% more. I believe even one of the most famous YouTubers said that in industrial applications, it is obviously better. I'm not sure what an industrial application, though, is. You can see the results of the test here. When you had no valve core in, the pump head dropped really quickly. Presta and Clik with a Clik head, exactly the same. And when you have a Clik core with a Presta head, it was significantly slower. I did a total of 3 tests for the Presta and for the Clik valve using my little boom box. In every case, it was between 44 and 46 seconds. There's essentially no difference between either the Presta or the Clik. If you can get more air through the Clik valve, it doesn't make a difference in real applications. One of the points the manufacturer is going to make is that, well, of course, because you can get a way higher flow rate, which I think I've disproven with a Clik versus a Presta, it's going to be better for seating these mountain bike tires. Well, I got a better idea. Why don't you just take out whatever technology you're using here and just put it in straight through the valve stem to seat the tire, because that's going to work way better. And doing that, as an example, I don't even have to use a compressor anymore. I don't think I've used this compressor in several years to seat a tire. Now that I've got this fantastic, although the valve head is flawed, Blackburn pump. This thing will seat anything taking the valve cores out. So do that rather than, oh, a Clik valve is going to help me out with this. I'm going to save you 6 minutes of watching this park video, which is down in the links. Their hand pump works, although it's a struggle to push it. See more about that later. And they've got 2 floor pumps. They'll work too with Clik valve, but you may not get an accurate pressure reading. But my question to Park is, why don't you just sell your own adapter or make the pumps compatible? There is a ton of videos out there about compatibility, and I'm not going to play that game with you. But either if you've got a hose on your pump, this can screw in. If you've got a Schrader, the adapter will fit in, or you're stuck just sliding this over and having to work against that spring with, we'll call it a friction fit Presta type pump. You'll agree with me that riding around with a pump looking like this is not necessarily all that desirable. As I pointed out previously, the only pumps that actually have a Clik in them right now are the wolf tooth ones. And I bought this head to see if I could retrofit it on one of my 1-ups. Did not work. It was an epic fail. If you have a Lezyne type pump, it may or may not work to screw into the adapter. Of course, with the boom boxes, no problem. That screws right in. Let's see how effective my little compressor is. And I'm using the Presta head with the Clik valve. Oh, you know what? That's not even going to work because that's not friction fit. That's a screw on. So this and this are not compatible.
Your traditional Presta CO2s are likely compatible. And I don't think you have to worry about the resistance of that spring when you're putting one of these babies into your tire.
Unless you buy Swabel's proprietary gauges, and I love these, you're SOL. And just a note, the Swabel gauges are currently out of stock and have been for quite a long time. With the current product availability, I would never recommend cutting off your existing Schrader / Presta head or combo head and replacing it with this screw-on head. What happens then is you lose all backwards compatibility, as I pointed out before, and also, considering the fact that you probably got Swiss balls and sports balls and things like that, this does not work with the adapters for this. This is the hack that allows me to use it on my gravel bike. I took the standard 1-up head and I cut off the top part of the rubber piece that goes into it. Then I took an aluminum Clik adapter and I JB welded it into the upper section. Now, one little caution, it's still in there tight, but when you use a CO2 cartridge, which you'll see in a second, the stiffer epoxy likes to crack as this thing freezes and shrinks. And here's what the Franken pump looks like. 1-up, if you're watching, man, I think you charge about $20 for these things. You could charge $30 for these, make a huge margin, and sell a new Clik valve type one rather than me having to hack it. Let's say if the MAE 1-up modification works with a CO2 cartridge. So the way this works on a 1-up is you break the seal on the CO2, which I've just done. Then I'm going to use the Clik function, click it in, and then you back this off to get it to deliver air. Look at that. Works perfectly. So the MAE modification 1-up, if you're paying attention, works perfectly. If you look at my TPU tube video, another hack I've done is with these Tubolito tubes or the Ride Now ones, where I actually installed a Clik valve in here after cutting off and pulling the original Presta core. These are supposedly non-replaceable.
Swabel, those premium valve covers you got, put a little nub on top of them so you can take it off, flip it around to make it easier to bleed a little bit of air. You should be ashamed of yourself for not putting a bleed valve on your pump head. And finally, if you want me to use your pump head, you should be selling us potential Presta and Schrader adapters just because you can charge us more money for it. And it allows us to have some backwards compatibility.
Wrapping up, I think that the Clik valve is a nice improvement. I don't believe their claims about airflow. I don't think it's revolutionizing the cycling industry. And there may be other upgrades you may want to consider for your money that is going to further enhance your cycling enjoyment. Better than Clik valves. I can say though, it's definitely staying on my road bike, it's definitely staying on my gravel bike, and part of the big decision there is I can get this screw-on head adapter onto my pumps and onto my boom box that I carry with my road bike, and onto my one-up pump that I've hacked so that I can use it on my gravel bike. And also, if I can find it here, yeah, here, hopefully pump manufacturers come out with more click valve friendly solutions in the future, and Swabble actually advances their technology and gives you more options as per the recommendations I previously gave you. With that, please like, subscribe, and if you've got a question or comment, please put it down below, and we'll see you next time. Ride hard.